I didn't know that I was going to be an entrepreneur until I actually walked into the opportunity to start my own business in the Cutco company. I sold Cutco knives, and they said, do you want to open a branch office? I said, what does that mean? And it was totally an entrepreneurial opportunity. I had to find my own office space at 20 years old. I had to hire my own employees. I had a program to work from, but I needed to make all sorts of adaptations myself. From there, I learned that at the core of all things entrepreneur are the ability to influence people. That's why this is called Leading Giants, the Influence Mastery Company. If somebody were to say, what is the one major thing that you need if you want to build, scale, and lead any organization? Influence.
So I want to ask you, you clearly had an intuition that you wanted to become an entrepreneur, or did you? And
no.
What led you to make that decision?
Well, I didn't. I don't think I even knew really what the term entrepreneur meant. As crazy as that sounds, I knew I was going to be in business. That I knew. I knew somehow, some way, I wasn't smart enough to be an engineer, and my whole family was engineers. I knew that I wasn't going to be an educator. My mother was an educator because I wanted to strive for something a little bit more. But I'm shocked at how ignorant I was when I was, particularly in high school. But even as a business major in college, not really getting it. See, I actually thought that business was almost like, and I even to a large degree now understand that this isn't true either, but you would think be more true, was a little bit like medicine, that there were procedures. And I do know that, if you're going to become a nurse or a doctor and you're going to go through certain things, you have to do them procedurally. And I thought business was kind of like that, almost like rules. Like there are rules to marketing, there are rules to selling, there are rules to finance. Now, there's of course GAAP and all that kind of stuff. There are actual financial rules you have to follow. But there are certain things that you can do in business where they're just creative. And if I would have known early on that, no, as an entrepreneur, you just go make it up. And that's what I did. I took pretty much every company that I have, I broke all the rules. I mean, I knew that all along, but I remember when the CEO of the Chicago Tribune called me and said, what have you done here? Literally, my colleagues and I are saying we don't know how to make money in print anymore, and you guys are growing as fast as you are in print. And I said, well, we're literally not doing it anything like people do print. We completely reinvented it. And he said, his quote, you turned the industry on its head. And one of the reasons for that is because I was ignorant of the industry. So I didn't go in with any predisposed concepts or ideas of how it is supposed to be done and then have to break those rules. I went in and I said, here's something people need. Here's something they don't have. Here's something else that somebody needs, and I can connect these people to those people by doing it this way, and then just did it.
Wow.
And that is very different. And that's the spirit of an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is the type of person who basically wants to connect two things, which is what creativity is. Creativity is like, to somebody in modern times, this sounds hilarious, but the minivan. I mean, the idea that all vans had to be huge was crazy. Well, then they invent the minivan, and it's like, okay, this is actually pretty functional. But then it had to have been a mom sitting in a meeting with Chrysler or whatever says, you should be able to get in on both sides. Because the early minivans only had a door on one side. And somebody's in there going, well, that's silly, vans have a door on one side. Okay, well, how stupid is that thinking? And eventually it was like, okay, we'll put a door on both sides. Well, that's when the minivan really started to sell, and they just got better and whatever. But the point would be that, thinking like the old way means making adaptations. Coming in new and saying, I'm going to combine two things not previously joined, like a minivan and a door on both sides, as silly as that sounds, that's creativity. But it sounds pretty basic. What does it require? It requires humility, and it requires tenacity to get there. So if you're saying to yourself, there's a need here, people need a solution, I want to provide it to them. There's no doubt it's smart to rely on the wisdom of others and not reinvent the wheel. I believe in modeling. It almost sounds like a contradiction to say, I went in and I invented stuff. But it's not like I didn't use ideas from other people that didn't exist in some mild way and then just reapply them to different things and make them better according to the circumstance. It's like walking into a hardware store when you want to build something and going, gosh, you know what? We could use that part and just shave it down a little bit over here. And that might not have been what the part was made for, but you didn't invent the part. You just adapted the part. And when you take all the parts that you put together, you have created something new, but not on your own. I mean, it's like, human beings today. Think about a young kid today with AI. I mean, really they're going to really think they're smart because they just type in, hey, solution, and then a solution is presented to them. Whereas, I mean, hey, you know what? Let's start with this. Why don't you actually go back and discover electricity? Let's begin with that, okay? And in fact, the wheel. How about let's just start with the wheel, okay? Well, we're using other people's ideas in order to get to where we are, but then we need to be in the creative mode. I didn't know that I was going to be an entrepreneur until I actually walked into the opportunity to start my own business in the Cutco company. I sold Cutco knives, and they said, do you want to open a branch office? I said, what does that mean? And it was totally an entrepreneurial opportunity. I had to find my own office space at 20 years old. I had to hire my own employees in that office space. And I had to go from hiring the employees to hiring independent contractors to doing all the training for them, to do the recruiting strategies, to incentivize them in a lot of different ways. I had a program to work from, but I needed to make all sorts of adaptations myself and be creative within that process. So it was kind of entrepreneur light, which I really liked. And from there, I learned that at the core of all things entrepreneur are the ability to influence people. That's why this is called the Leading Giants, the Influence Mastery Company. Because if somebody were to say, what is the one major thing that you need if you want to build, scale, and lead any organization? Influence.